We have time for a few questions and answers, and then Marcela will also be doing an event tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and then we'll have a cocktail. So we'll have kind of a conversation with the public, and there'll be more questions and answers. I also wanted to make a quick plug. We have copies of the magazine Revista from Harvard's Rockefeller Center, which has an article by Marcela, which you can take on your way out. So if you would like to ask questions, the floor is open. Borja?
Thank you very much. It was amazing, your speech. And I would like to know, you were talking about the fear. No? How do you deal with that fear and to stay mentally healthy, as you were saying, because you are helping other people to do that, but I would like to know how you personally deal with that fear. And also, what is what are your feelings to those journalists that are resigning because of that fear to do their job, and to those newspapers that have chosen not to inform about the violence because of the narcos?
Thank you. The fear is, I don't know. I have tried many different formulas. The basic, like doing yoga, acupunctura. One period, I went to the psychologist, but it's not work for me because the psychologist always told you, like, what are you doing? You are suicidal. Yes, you are crazy. You have to leave that work. And later, one thing that I do is I talk too much with my friends. For that reason, we are pretending to extend the networks that we have self-support. We support among us, and sometimes the victims, and I ask the victims that they invite me to their workshops where they can make celebrations, and they have like when I can see they not just crying, when I see them like promising they will fight, and when they do their celebrations so on, and I feel like that is fine to like see them, they are doing well, and they will be fine, and it helps to me too. But I don't know, I have talked too much with the Dart Center, the people from Dart Center, and we made a wonderful workshop in Mexico City with many people from different states, and we all share our fear. And at the end, I think it was fine, that because we felt that we clean all this fear, and that we forgive us to have this fear, because many times you feel bad because you can't do more things, because you think that you have to be more brave or braver to continue, and sometimes you feel like that you did wrong because you felt this fear, and so that was fine that we forgive us in that moment, and we say, like, if you feel, you have to feel this fear and continue until you can, no? And the people who resign, I can't say nothing. I respect too much these people, because everyone knows why what happened. Some of them is because the family, I think the majority of them, when they have children, they feel really, really bad and they feel like toxic for the family. They feel like they for the job, they can be killed. So they have to go and run. And some of them told that they will write and publish a book, and that is the only hope they have. But I think they are brave to take their things and go away, because many of them, many others can't. They don't resign, and it's difficult. But some of them surrender to the criminals, and they work for them. And there is another part that I think the journalists in Mexico, we have to talk. And some of them, if they have a gun point, pistola, apuntando, they have all the right to do whatever they need to stay alive. No, thank you.
So I was actually wondering, excuse me, I was actually wondering, you mentioned that some of, some foreign journalists are writing about issues that Mexican journalists cannot write about because it's too dangerous. But is there anything else that foreign journalists could do basically to help, apart from writing stories?
Well, I think maybe talk about the Mexicans, the Mexican situation. It can be fine, but the best is write. If they can write about this. Some of them, for example, Alfredo Corchado. Many of you have known him. He went to Tamaulipas, that was a silence state. And it was really good for us because he published that 8 journalists were disappeared, and we didn't know that it was a week when they 8 journalists disappeared, and he has to publish outside Mexico that we find that. So we, I don't know, we try to help, and sometimes that we can't go to some places, we asked to the correspondents, and we give the information and the contacts that they make the articles, that many of the journalists can't do it. And it's hard as a journalist, it's really hard because you're always thinking in the exclusive and the scoop, and if you are not the one who signed this, it's really hard, but you know that maybe it will be the better way, the best way to do it. And we know that the governments in some states, they feel bad only when they read it in the United States newspapers and not in Mexican newspapers. So we think that sometimes it's better that they felt ashamed because it is published in El País or in New York Times or Washington Post. Because in Mexico they no, it's not matter for them.
Would you allow me just one follow-up question, if that's possible? When you say that sometimes you also send foreign journalists to places where you cannot go, why would it be safer for a foreign journalist to go there? Why wouldn't the drug cartel also kill them or go after them if they're already in the country?
Sometimes they can go to, sometimes they can, sometimes no. I think they have more protection. There are more respect for them. The cartel, I think the cartel or the traffickers or the politicians don't want that some some reporter from United States be killed. And that matter, they are like really, really worried about it. But if there is a Mexican, they are not worried. It's not problem for them. So sometimes is better.
Beauregard?
So congratulations to you and your colleagues. I'm really in awe of the work you guys do. One thing I wanted to ask, which you touched on briefly, was at the great risks that you guys take, how do you ensure that people actually care about what's happening locally, firstly? You're talking about a massacre of massive scale here, tens of thousands of people being killed. How do you make people actually care when tomorrow there's 10 bodies dead in the street? Wouldn't it be a case of people saying, well, another 10, we've seen that yesterday and the day before? Not to sound flippant about it, but I mean, we say that happens too often. But I mean, could you speak to some specifics? I mean, you obviously have to deal with this all the time, that making people actually care about what you guys do and what's happening in your country.
Yes, it's really difficult because the people get used so easily to the dead. I think the people is. It says the people says that are worried, but it's not true. And the majority doesn't want to read about this. So you have to, I don't know. For example, I was sent many times to Ciudad Juárez, and in like 3 years, it was the most the city where most people were killed in the world, they say. And I don't know, I have to find out different stories to catch the readers, because the readers always think like, I know that, and I know that in this place are killing people. And so I have to think and use like narrative skills and investigate like different angles and try that every article be different of the past article. And it's hard, or it's difficult, because you are the same. You have to tell the same, that you can't not allow that this high level or high yes, you can't allow to many kills in this same place, and all the articles you repeat the same, but you have to do in a different way. For example, like in the fifth time that I went to Ciudad Juárez, I was like, what I can do. And one day I wrote an article about these workshops of the families who has the families, the broken families who lost one of the parents who was killed, no? So, or another time I went with the orphans and talk about how it's normal that in this city you have many orphans. In that moment you have like 10,000 because in that city, and I have to talk to write about this. How are the therapies to the orphans, or in the cemeteries, how it changed all the cemeteries, because you have like the morgue that it was saturated, no more bodies have space, and you have no blood in the hospitals, and you have I don't know, like things like the musicians who play in the bars in downtown change to the cemeteries because they have too much, yes, more job, more work. So like things like, it seems like magic. Many people say like, how you find this? And I say like, okay, I just look or search another way to think, to write about this and many other angles to say the same. But it's difficult because the people always quickly it says like, I know, I don't want to know about this, and you have to think and think. The last time, for that reason, we brought the book Among the Ashes, because we says the people has to know that there are victims, and the people doesn't want to read more about the horror, but this is another focus. And so we wrote about the victims who organize and about the hope that these persons are building. So always like thinking how to do it, and that the people can read these stories. No.
I think, Laura, did you have a question, Laura?
I did, but I was going to ask a little bit more on the political side. You touched on the new government a little bit, but are there any concrete measures to protect journalists and the work of journalism that you could see the government instituting or are looking to advocate for within Mexico?
Yes, in a few months ago, they created a mechanism to protection to journalists and human rights defenders. We don't know how it will work. We are just waiting to be if they really can't. They really will do something, but we know or we notice that this is just when somebody threatens you and you it's have to activate, but we don't have nothing for prevent this threat. We don't have nothing to, I don't know, to change the culture, to do things more deeply, because the problem of these measures is that always the journalist who is threatened have to flee and have to go to another place, and they stop investigating, and so the bad guys, they win this game. And we think that we have to create another thing that these journalists can follow the investigations and can continue what they were doing. So something have to change because this model is not good, and we have like many money to go with this mechanism, and we don't have like for another kind of mechanism. So it's not good for the journalist.
We had promised to wrap up at 9. I was thinking maybe we could take Laura Amico as the last question, and tomorrow we will have more Marcela at 4 o'clock with cocktails.
I'll try to make it a good one. I want to say how much I admire your courage and commitment, and thank you so much for being here. Because it's the last question I'll ask you about the future, and particularly the future of journalism. I'd love to hear from you about young journalists working in Mexico, whether they're attracted to the profession, and what you hope their future might be like.
Yes. I don't know. The journalist profession now in this moment is not at high levels. For example, the police, sometimes in the streets, the police stop you and say, "You are a journalist?" You say, "Yes." "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, "Oh, you have bad moment, no?" You are like, "Yes." And so many people is like that they know the young that it's dangerous be journalist now. And I think in all the world we have like bad moments because we have they are fighting. Yes, too much experimented journalists. They are hiring journalists for internet with no experience, and nobody is preparing them. And we, in the network, we make many of the capacitations on the workshops that the media has to do it. No, I don't know. In the immediate future, I don't see this a good future, for the reason that I told, that with this new government, it's strange, but it's like they disappear all the violence news, and that is not good. All the people who covers the violence, they are like alone, and they are getting isolated, and the people is denying the violence. The government is denying the violence. So I think that we have to move quickly and create a network in this moment, because if done, I think many other journalists will kill, and there will be the journalists who do the great investigation, or the only voices on the places are on risk, because this other kind of censor of these issues. And the problem is that the big medias are playing with the government to that the violence disappear, and that is really, really bad for all of us. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone, and just one more round of congratulations.
Gracias.